right? So as I said, so earlier we used to develop all types of web-based applications using scripting language, but we have identified some major drawbacks with scripting language. One of the major drawback is like, scripting language doesn't contain proper data types. In all the cases, some common amount of memory is going to be allocated, which leads to lot of memory wastage, right? So a lot of memory wastage will be there in the scripting language, and that would also degrade performance of your applications, right? So that's why to overcome the scripting language problems, like whatever the drawbacks identified with the scripting language, yes, Microsoft has overcome that by introducing more powerful programming languages. One of them is C Sharp. C Sharp. Not only C Sharp, they're providing support of multiple languages like VB.NET, F Sharp, and VC++. Now you can develop your web-based applications and other type of applications using powerful programming languages like C Sharp. Okay. So in our training, so in most of the organization, 99% of the organizations, if you're working on a .NET project, so mostly we will be using C Sharp, then VB.NET, then C++ for fewer applications. From some gaming related applications, we'll be using C++. Okay, so in our training, we are going to learn the C Sharp, and we are going to learn how to design your web-based applications, Windows-based applications, console applications, distributed applications using C Sharp. And in order to develop those applications in C Sharp, first you need to become expert in C Sharp. You should be aware of every piece of your C Sharp programming language, like every programming option of your C Sharp programming language, right? You should know like how to write the things, how to write a program in C Sharp. Then only you'll be able to develop other applications using C Sharp programming language. Any questions, guys?
No, sir.
Okay, so that's why first we are going to start with C Sharp. For first 10 days, we are going to cover all concepts of C Sharp programming language, right? So once we are done with C Sharp, once we become expert in C Sharp, then we will start developing different types of GUI-based applications using C Sharp programming language. Okay. Okay. So in this session, we are going to learn few basics of C Sharp, like introduction to C Sharp. So we need to learn a few words about C Sharp. When you talk about a C Sharp programming language, it is most powerful object-oriented programming language where you can implement powerful reusable components. What is the main motto of a object-oriented programming? Using object-oriented programming concepts, you will be able to implement reusable components. When something has to be reused in multiple places, that can be possible only through a powerful concept called object-oriented programming. So when it comes to C Sharp, it is powerful object-oriented programming language, which contains advanced programming options. And nowadays, Microsoft has made it as open source, where you don't have to purchase any license. As I said, it contains advanced programming options and components, which lets you develop powerful, reusable components. And when it comes to C Sharp, it supports IntelliSense. See, for example, when it comes to any programming language, for example, C and C++, every programming language contains a set of system-defined keywords, like if, else, while, and some other thing, right? For example, if you go to C, if you want to write a program in C, you should remember everything, like printf statement, scanf statement, how to write a loop, how to write this, how to write that, right? Every programming language comes with set of system-defined keywords. If you want to use them, you should remember each and every keyword. See, if that contains 10 or 20, we can easily remember that, but that contains thousands of keywords. It's very difficult to remember each and every keyword, right? We cannot remember those things all the time, right? So that's why Microsoft has provided the support of IntelliSense. What is an IntelliSense? For example, if you go to Google and type a letter A or B, what happens? Whatever starts with A and B will get populated over there. right? So you don't have to type the full thing. Rather, you can choose the required one from the list of populated options. That feature is called as IntelliSense. IntelliSense. So C# supports IntelliSense, where you don't have to remember even a single keyword. If I type A in C# environment, like your Google text box, whatever the thing starts with A, like your events, functions, and everything gets populated over there. You just need to choose the required functionality from the list of populated options. That feature is called IntelliSense. And in C#, like your C and C++, if I want to write a comment, how do I write a comment? So if every comment should start with double slash. If anything is started with double slash, it will be treated as a comment, plain text, which will not be compiled by your compiler. It will be ignored by your compiler. It doesn't consider it as a valid statement. It will be considered as a plain text. Either you can use double slash. If you are going to write a single line comment, use double slash. If you want to write a multi-line comment, rather than using double slash multiple times, better enclose the entire statement between slash, star, star, slash. If something is enclosed between slash, star, star, slash, this complete statement, there can be n number of lines. This complete statement will be considered as a comment, plain text. It will not be compiled by the compiler. It will be ignored by the compiler. Any questions, guys, so far?
No.
Okay. And it is a case-sensitive programming language. Case-sensitive means what? Like it comes with set of predefined system keywords, right? System keywords. If that starts with capital letter, you have to write it in capital. If that starts with small, you have to write it as small. You have to follow the casing defined by the C# system. That is called case sensitive. Let's say one of the keywords starts with small letter, but I wrote it as capital letter. It will not be treated as a valid keyword. It throws error, right? So we have to follow the standard casing defined by the C# system. And what is the extension of a C# file? What is the extension of a C file? .c. Extension of C++ .cpp. Like that. Every technology will have their own unique extension. When it comes to C#, the extension of C# file is .cs. CS means C#. What is the compiler of a C#? The compiler of C# is CS. So this is the one which plays important key role in your C# environment. It's like a mediator, converter. This is the one which will take care of compiling your code into target mission code. It will take care of compiling your code into, as I said, it is a platform independent, right? So CL, it comes with CLR, common language runtime. So whenever you compile your code, what happens? It will be compiled into one of the intermediate language code. That's why we are able to run our code on multiple platforms. Okay, but who will compile your code? Your C# will take care of compiling your code into intermediate language code. That is also one of the high-level programming language code. And the latest version of C# is 11.0, C# 11.0, which has been introduced with your Visual Studio 2022. Visual Studio 2022. Okay, so this is some high-level introduction about C#. So later we will see each and everything. Okay, you'll get a chance to touch everything in 360 degrees view. Okay. Next, some important things. See, as a developer, if you are going to write some piece of code, always you should keep three things in your mind. This is very much required for every developer. If you are defining a variable, if you are writing a method, if you are writing a class, if you are developing a library, Always, everything has to be structured based on these three things. Because when it comes to real-time environment, these three things will play one of the important key role, which would impact many things. Your revenue also, revenue, timelines, and everything. What is that? Complexity, speed, and security. Complexity, speed, and security. As a developer, if you're writing some piece of code, let's, for example, I ask you to write some logic to find an even number. There will be a lot of difference from developer to developer. One developer completes that logic in 10 lines, whereas another developer has completed that same logic within 2 lines, and third developer has completed the same logic within a single line. The mode of all the three codes is same. The target of all the three codes is same. But there is a difference from first piece of code to second piece to third piece. What is the difference? The first piece of code contains the action is same. He has written some logic, it will take care of identifying even number, but he has completed that logic within 10 lines. The second piece of code has only 2 lines, but still the purpose is same. Third piece of code contains only 1 line. That is where the difference will come into the picture from developer to developer, right? So the first piece of code contains a lot of complexity since it has 10 lines of code. Second one contains little less complexity, and third one has only 1 line of code. So as developer, you should reduce the complexity of your code as much as you can, wherever you can. The complex should be reduced. You should reduce number of lines of code. You should always write only a reasonable amount of code. If the complexity is increased, what happens? Number of lines of code will be increased. Compiler has to spend a lot of time to execute your action. If the complexity is decreased, what happens? Compiler time will also be decreased. Execution time will also be decreased. Next, speed. If the complexity is increased, obviously speed would be degraded. It will be decreased. If the complexity is decreased, speed will be increased. And not only complexity of a code, speed depends upon too many things. What has to be done? If I click on something, it should come immediately. If that takes more time than expected, what happens? End user will get irritated. The speed should be increased. You should increase speed of your process as much as you can. And coming to the security, if something is going to be transferred over a network from one system to another system, from one location to another location, hackers may come into the picture. They might hack your data. You should also think about the security of your data, which is going to be transferred from one system to another system. So while writing any piece of code, if you're going to write something, you should always think about these things: complexity, speed, security. You should always think about this, irrespective of the technology, irrespective of the applications. Whether you're working in C#, Java, or wherever, you should always think about this: how to reduce the complexity, how to minimize my code, how to minimize the complexity, how to reduce number of lines of code, and how to increase the speed. You have to ensure that this is not going to impact the performance of your application, and how to increase the security levels to protect your code, to protect your data from hackers. So these are the 3 things to be noted. There are 3 things you should keep in mind while writing every piece of your code. Any questions, guys?
No questions.
Okay, so later we'll see about these 3. Okay. Next, in order to start with C#, you need to understand the concept of a library. In the process of understanding the concept of library, you should also understand the concept of what is a variable or data member, what is the need of a class or structure or union, what is the need of a namespace or package, then what is the need of a library. Okay. So laterally we'll get a chance to implement each and every piece of these. But now you need to know, at least at the high level, you need to know why we need a library, why we need a namespace or package, why we need a class. Okay. So, and you should also know about this thing, complexity, speed, and security. I'll give you a simple example. Through that, you'll get to know about these three as well as these three. Okay. Because these two are indirectly linked. This one is linked with this, and this one is linked with this. Okay. I'll give a simple example. Okay. Right. For example, this is my room. Okay. This is my room. Okay. Whenever I go out, what I will do? I will lock my room and go out. Right? I will lock my room and go out. Now I have some cash in the form of coins and some currency notes. Okay. I have some cash like 10 lakh rupees. Some of them are coins, in which some of them are coins and some of them are currency notes. Now I have to go out for some tea, cup of tea. Now what I will do? I don't have a bag. I just kept all the coins. See, try to understand the concept. This will give you too many things. This concept will teach you too many things. It's pretty similar. Okay. I have a cash of 10 lakh rupees, which contains some coins and some currency notes. I don't have a locker or bag. I just kept all the coins and currency notes on the floor and locked my room, went out for some work. Now, thief has entered into your premises. Thief has entered into your premises. He has opened your lock. He has opened your lock and entered into the room. Once he opened the door, he can directly see what is there in your room because you didn't even pack them into a bag. You just kept your valuables, all your coins and currency notes on the floor and went out. If I open the door, I can directly see what is there on the floor. Now client feels very happy because he doesn't need to search for anything. He can directly pick those and get out from there. You can directly pick your coins because you can directly see what is there. You can directly see as he enters into your room. You can directly see. You can just pick and escape from there. But here there is a challenging thing. What is that? We have kept 10 lakh cash in which the 10 lakh contains some coins and some currency notes. Though it is visible to him, but still he has to spend to collect those coins and cash. If all those are in the bag, you just need to pick a single bag and escape from there. But here we put those coins, thousands of coins and thousands of currency notes on the floor. In order to collect them, he cannot collect all those at a time, right? With his two hands. It will take some time. It will take a lot of time to collect all those kinds and currency notes. Yeah, there are three things. What is that? First thing, there is no security for your valuable things. You could have kept it at least inside a bag, right? Once he enters into your room, you can directly see. It means the security is weak. There is no security for your valuable things. You did not provide security for that. Second thing, when it comes to client, right? Even though he wants to collect that cash, he has to spend a lot of time to collect your coins. Why? There is a lot of complexity. It has a lot of coins, a lot of currency notes. It cannot collect all those at a time in a single shot, right? He has to spend minimum amount of time to collect coins as well as cash. It has a lot of complexity. That's why he has to spend a lot of time. It means it is degrading the speed. Guys, are you following me?
Yes.
Okay. So this will teach you too many things, guys. Too many things. Okay. This is the first case. When it comes to thief also, because it has a lot of complexity, he has to spend a lot of time to collect your coins. Okay, you spent a lot of time and collected that and went out. Okay. In the second case, we realized that, oh, I kept it on the floor. That's why, like the such process has become much more simpler to thief, right? Because as he enters into this room, he can directly see and he can directly collect your data. Second case, what I did, again, I have 10 lakh rupees cash in which we have some coins and some currency notes. Now, what I did, I put all the coins into one bag and currency notes into another bag. Now, I kept two bags in the room on the floor and locked my room, went out. Okay. In the previous case, I kept everything on the floor. So once he enters into your room, you can directly see. But in this case, what I did, in the second case, second scenario, I packed all the coins into one bag. I kept all the bags into one bag and locked that bag. And I placed all the currency notes into another bag and locked that bag. And kept those two bags on the floor, went out. I locked my room and went out. Now thief enters into your premises. He will open your lock. Once he opens his lock, can he see the cash directly? No. In the previous case, he can directly see the cash once he opens your door. But here, he doesn't know. He can see only two bags, but he doesn't know what is there in those two bags. But in the previous case, as he enters, he can directly see the cash. There was no security for your cash. But in the second case, at least some level of security is increased. Now he can see those two bags, but he doesn't know what is there inside the bag. He may or may not touch that bag. So some level of security is increased. Okay. If he wants to see that, what is there inside the bag, what has to be done? First, he has to open your room lock, then enters into the room. Then in order to see what is there inside the bag, he has to open one more lock of your bag. Once you open that, then only you'll be able to see your coins and your currency notes. Right? So compared to previous case, here what happens? Some level of security is increased. Next. When it comes to the thief case, in the previous case, he has to collect, right, all the coins and all the currencies or notes one by one. because we kept all the currents, kinds and nodes and everything on the floor. He cannot collect all those at a time, right? He has spent some amount of time to collect your coins and currency notes. But in the second case, if he opens that bag and see your cash, it doesn't need to spend that much amount of time, since we have packed everything neatly into 2 bags. You just need to pick up those 2 bags and escape from there. That's it. What happened? Your complexity is reduced. And thief process has become much more simpler. In the previous case, you used to collect all the kinds one by one. You spend a lot of time to collect your cash. But here, it's a matter of just picking only 2 bags. Complexity is reduced, so speed is increased. Next, third scenario. Now, what we did, I thought like, okay, why to keep them in 2 different bags? Okay, I'll keep all the coins in one bag, currency notes in second bag, and I'll lock them using separate locks. And I'll keep those 2 bags into another big container. And I'll lock that also. Right? So I kept all coins into one bag, locked it. All currency notes into another bag, locked it. And I combined these 2 bags into another container, third bigger bag, and locked it. And I kept it in my room, locked my room and went out. Now thief enters into your premises. First, he has to open your door lock. Once he opens your door, now you can see only one bag. But he doesn't know what is there inside that bag. Right? Some level of security is increased. It doesn't know until he opens that and see that. Now it doesn't know what is there inside that bag. In order to see what is there inside the bag, what has to be done? First, he has to open the lock of upper bag. If I open the lock of upper one, once I open the upper container, then I can see 2 more bags. But still I don't know what is there inside that. Again, I have to open the inner bag lock. Then will I be able to see what is there inside that. Right? Here, in order to touch your cash, he has to break 3 levels of security. First, he has to open your door lock. Then he has to open the lock of upper container. Then he has to open the lock of inner container. Try to understand the concept. Here, we are trying to increase the security. For example, if you are going out on a vacation, in India, usually what we will do? Let's say our house is having main door, again it is having grill, we have a gate. What we will do? First we will lock our main door. Then we will lock our grill. Then we will lock our gate. So why are we doing that? We are increasing the level of security. In order to see what is there in your house, in order to touch your belongings in your house, first he has to open the gate lock. Then he has to open the grill. Then he has to open the door. Are you with me? He has to break these many levels to touch what is there inside your house. Are you with me? Okay. So, in our example, in all the 3 cases, we have seen the difference of security, complexity, and speed. In third case, in the second case, in the first case, you need to collect all the kinds currencies one by one. You spend a lot of time. When it comes to second case, we pack them into 2 bags. Complexity is reduced and speed is increased. When it comes to third case, it is only one bag. You just need to pick only one bag. And complexity is also increased. Again, we packed. We have combined those 2 bags into third one. Complexity is reduced and speed is increased. Security is also increased. Right? So, if you are going to store any piece of data in your application, If you want to send something from one location to another location, you should always think about this. In order to increase the speed, you have to reduce the complexity. You have to take care of too many things. And if something is going to be transferred from one system to another system, you will have control over only your system. But when it comes to network, once it is entered into the network, once it is flowing over the network, you will not have control over there. Are you getting me? In this case, hackers may enter and they may hack your data. That's why you should always think about the security, especially when it comes to banking applications. Not only banking application, everywhere. You should always think about these three things. Okay. Now, from this example, now you will learn the concept of a data member, class, package, and library. It is simple. The concept has been implemented by a human being. It is derived from these kind of real-time examples. Right? In the first case, once you enter into your room, you can see what is there inside your room. Right? Here your coin, your current state is called as data member variable. That is your data here. Here, what is your data? Coin is your data. Current note is your data. Right? In the second case, what we did, we have grouped all my data into a container called bag. Into a container called a bag. Why did we group them into a bag? To decrease the complexity, to increase the speed, to increase the security. Why did you put them into a bag and locked it? To decrease the complexity. If I do not keep them into a bag, if you want to collect your coins, you have to spend a lot of time. If I kept them inside a bag, if you want to collect it, you just need to collect a single bag. Right? So through this, through your container, you're able to decrease the complexity, you're able to increase the speed, and you're able to increase the security. Right? In third case, what we did, again, we have grouped all smaller bags into a bigger container. Again, what we're doing here? They're still trying to minimize the complexity, increase the speed, increase the security. Here, your coin and current note is called as your data. Your smaller bag is called as your class, structure, and union. Your bigger container is called as a namespace in .NET, a package in Java. If there are a lot of bigger containers, again, if you want to group all those bigger containers to another big container, that is going to be your library. What is a library? It's a kind of a bigger container. This will be used to combine some more containers. Whenever you want to group set of containers into another big container, then we require a concept called library. Are you with me? So it starts from data. If anyone wants to touch your data, he should break these many levels. First, he has to open the lock of your library. Then he has to open the lock of your namespace or package. Then he has to open the lock of your class. Then only you'll be able to touch your data, access your data. Guys, did you understand the concept of this? Are you following me?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now let's get into this. What is a variable data member? Your coin, your currency note. What is a class, structure, and union? Your smaller container. Right? In order to group, in order to combine your coins and your currency notes into a container, we have to use a smaller bag, smaller container. That container is called as your class, structure, or union. You can call it as anything. In C, we used to call it as union structure. In Java, C++, and all object-oriented programs, we are calling it as a structure or class. What is a class? What is a structure? It is a container. Using this container, you'll be able to group set of data members. Whenever you want to group set of data members into a single container, then we require a container called class and structure. Here, each bag is nothing but one class. Each bag is nothing but one structure. Here we have two bags, means two classes, two structures. Again, to increase the speed, to decrease the complexity. What we did in third case, we have grouped these two smaller bags into another bigger one, another container. That bigger container is called as a namespace in .NET, a package in Java. In Java, we call it as a package, the bigger container. In .NET, we call it as namespace. Let's say we have set of bigger containers. Now, still I want to decrease some more complexity. I would like to group all these bigger containers into another final container, final bigger one. That is going to be your library. Now tell me, what is the purpose of having a library? Three things should come into your picture. After grouping all your containers into a final container, what we achieved? We reduce the complexity, increase the speed, increase the security. What is the need of your library? When something has to be transferred from one end to another end. When you want to expose something to third party, you would be needing these things: complexity, speed, and security. Through library, you can achieve these three. In Java, we call it as a jar file. What is a jar file? It is a library. Everywhere, irrespective of the technology, concept is same across all programming languages. Why do we need a library? In .NET, a library file is called as DLL, Dynamic Linking Library. In Java, we call it as jar file. In C, we call it with different name. In C++, we call it different name. Are you with me? But what is the purpose of your library? To increase the speed, to reduce the complexity, to increase the security, to provide the reusability. Okay, so let's come from here. Whenever you want to group set of data members, you need a container called class or structure. Whenever you want to group set of smaller containers, set of classes, set of structures, you need another container called a namespace as package. Whenever you want to group set of namespaces, set of packages, you need a container called as library. What is a library? Let's get to here. What is a library? A library, the extension of a library file is .dll. In .NET, the extension of library is .dll. What is mean DLL? Dynamic Linking Library. What will be there in library? A library, see, let's come from here. Here we have data. If you want to group set of data members and member functions into a single container, then we require a class. If you want to group set of classes into another container, then we require a namespace. If you want to group set of namespaces into another big container, then we require a library. What is a library? A library can be defined as collection of namespaces. What is a namespace? A namespace can be defined as collection of classes, structures, and interfaces. And what is a class? A class can be defined as collection of data members, and member functions. This is the concept of a library. Any questions, guys?
No, sir.
No.
Did you understand the concept of a library?
Yes.
Yeah.
Please feel free to ask me questions because we are going to work on the real-time projects. Right? If something is not clear to you, please stop me right there.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. If you understood this, now you can easily work on C# programming. You can do wonders with C# programming. This is the core concept of the whole programming language. What are we going to do with program language? You will be creating your data. You will be creating classes. You will be creating namespaces. You will be creating DLLs. That's all. Okay. Next. So this is a library, right? So with this, and I can say that whenever you have a requirement of creating library, yes, you can do that. You can create your own library. In C, whenever you need to use printf and scanf, we used to write something like hash include stdio.h. What is stdio.h? stdio.h is a library that has been implemented. That is not your library. That has been implemented by C system. That's why we call it a system defined library. What will be there in library? The library comes with set of classes, structures, unions. And what will be there in the class? Data, data member, member function. A variable is also called as data member. A function is called as member function. A subprogram is called as member function. Right? So whenever you want to group set of data members and member functions into a single container, then we require a class or structure or interface or union. Whenever you want to group set of classes, set of structures into another container, then we require a namespace. And when you want to group set of namespaces into another big container, then we require a library. A library will have a collection of namespaces. A namespace will have collection of classes, structures, and interfaces. A class will have collection of variables and subprograms. In other terms, we can say collection of data members and member functions. Okay. So like your stdio.h in C, here .NET is also providing set of system defined libraries. Those are called as, in different language, we use different names. See, here we are calling it as namespace. In Java, we call it as a package. Here we are calling library as DLL. In Java, we call it as array file, right? So, but the concept will remain same. What is a base class library? So Microsoft has already implemented some libraries. It has been implemented by Microsoft system. That's why we call it as a system defined library. A system defined library is called as base class library in .NET. So Microsoft is providing hundreds of base class libraries to let you play with different programming options. Some of them are like system.dll, system.data.dll, system.io. These are called as system defined library. It means that library means the concept remains same. What will be there in this library? So what does system.dll contains? Collection of namespaces. What does a namespace contains? Collection of classes. What does a class contains? Collection of data members and member functions. Right? But these are defined by system. And if you want to create your own library, you can do that. If a library is created by you, we call it as user defined library because it has been created by the user. If the library is created by Microsoft, we call it as system defined library or base class library. Any questions, guys?
No, sir.
Okay. Right. So later we'll get into this in depth. Next. In order to start with your C# programming, so you need to understand all these concepts. Okay. Now I hope you understood the concept of class, data member, namespace, and library. And let's get into one more important thing, that is input and output statement. This plays one of the important key roles in any programming language. If you want to play with your program, when you want to automate something, you need to play with both input and output. Right? For example, I gave you a question. Hey Sridhar, please tell me whether this number is even number or odd number. Now what you will do? You will think about it. You will do some calculation. And then you will tell me, hey, this is even or this is odd. Here I am the user, you are the system. Right? If I do not provide any number to you, then how do you say that is even or not? Right? In order to give you the answer, first you need to take some input from me. Right? So in every system, right? If you want to play with something, user has to provide that input. Right? So how do we read inputs from the end user? And how do we provide the response to the end user? How do we take the request from the end user? And how do we provide response to the end user? Taking request is called as input. Providing response is called as output. Right? So how to implement these things in your C#? Okay, how to scan data, how to read data from end user, and how to write response to the end user, how to provide response to the end user. These are called as input and output statement. Whenever you want to get something from the end user, you have to use input statement. When you want to send something to the end user, you would use output statement. So in C, we used to write printf and scanf, right? Similarly, here we have a base class library called system.dll. Microsoft is providing a system-defined library, a base class library called system.dll. And when you talk about a library, what will be there in the library? A library will have collection of namespaces. System.dll is a library. This comes with set of namespaces. One of them is system namespace. It has set of namespaces. One of them is system namespace. When you talk about a namespace, what will be there in the namespace? Set of classes, set of structures, right? So when you talk about a system namespace will have collection of classes, collection of structures. That is the concept of a namespace. So system namespace comes with set of classes, set of structures. One of them is console class. We get a DLL called system.dll. It comes with set of namespaces. One of them is system namespace. When you talk about system namespace, it comes with set of classes, structures, and one of them is console class. And what does the class contains? It contains data members and member functions. Member function means subprograms, methods. So when you talk about a class, this class comes with set of member functions, set of methods, set of subprograms. Some of them are read and write. Read and write. Read is nothing but your scanf in C. Write is nothing but your printf in C. It means whenever you want to get some input from the end user, you have to use a method called read, like your scanf. Whenever you want to print something, send something to the user, you have to use a subprogram, a method called write. A read is called input statement in C#, like your scanf. A write is called output statement in C#, like your printf. Right? This is fine, but how to use this? Okay, let's get into that. So did you understand this concept?
Yes, sir.
Now you know
Yes.
where are my read and write is available, right? Read and write are the input statements. These statements comes with a class called console class. Console is a class which comes with a namespace called system namespace. System is a namespace which comes with a library called system.dll. Right? Like your stdio.h. In .NET, we have a library called system.dll. Right? So if I want to make use of read and write, what has to be done? Read and write is available in console. So if I want to make use of read and write, so first I have to import my console class into my programming environment. If I want to use a console is available in system namespace. System is available in this library. So in order to make use of all the functionalities that are available in your console class, so what has to be done? This corresponding library has to be imported into your programming environment. Wherever you want to use these statements, there you have to get this imported. In C, whenever you want to write some program, we used to include the stdio.h on the top, right? It means Because if I directly write read and write, what is read and write? System cannot understand it. System cannot understand it. It throws error. What is read and write? So read and write is a functionality which comes with console. Console is a class which comes with system namespace. That comes with this library. In order to make use of these three, the corresponding reference has to be provided in the programming environment. So whenever you want to make use of any system defined libraries functionalities, the corresponding library has to be imported into the programming environment. So later we will see how to do that. Okay, just giving some heads up. Okay, now let's see what is this input statement, how to use this in your C# programming environment. Okay, first output statement. As I said, whenever you want to send some response back to the end user, when you want to print something on the screen, then you would use a statement called output statement. Output statement. Okay. When it comes to output statement, this can be implemented in two ways. One is write, another one is a write line. Whenever you want to print something, you can use either write or write line. What is the difference between two? When should I go for this? When should I go for this? If I print something using write, okay, first, how to use write? If I want to use write in C#, how to use it? Simple. When you talk about write, where is write? Let's say if I directly write the write statement, system cannot understand it. As I said, in order to use write or read, this complete reference has to be provided, because write is available under console. Console is available under system namespace. This complete reference has to be provided. How to provide these? System dot console dot write, system dot console dot read. Are you getting me? Here, write is a method which comes with console class. Console is a class which comes with system namespace. So this complete reference has to be provided. If you just simply write it as write or read, it will not be recognized as a valid keyword, right? That's why how to write it? System dot your namespace dot class dot method name. System dot console dot write, system dot console dot write line. Is it clear, guys?
Yeah, it's
Yes,
clear.
sir.
Okay.
Clear.
Now, what is the difference between write and write line? See, when you want, each statement has to be printed in a separate line. When you want, your all statements are to be displayed in the same line, single line. You have to choose this respective implementation. When it comes to write, if I print anything using write, all the statements will be displayed in a single line. For example, here, system.console.write, welcome. System.console.write to system.console.write India. Now I have printed this 3 times using write. But when it comes to output, what happens? First, welcome will be displayed. Next, 2 will be displayed in the same line. Again, India will be displayed in the same line. If you print understatements also, all the statements will be combined into a single line. Everything will be displayed in the same line. If you want, each statement has to be displayed in a separate line, then your approach should be towards the right line. Something like this. Welcome. 2 should be displayed in next line. India should be displayed in next line. Are you ready? So if I use right line, what happens? Each statement will be displayed in a separate line. If I use write, all your statements will be displayed in the same line. There is a difference between write and write line. So again, it depends on your requirement. Based on your requirement, you have to choose the respective functionality. If you need to display everything in a single line, make use of write. If you need to display each statement in a separate line, make use of write line. Any questions, guys? This is something about your output statement. Later, we'll see more about it when we start implementing this. Next, input statement. As I said, we have a method called read. Whenever you want to read something from the end user, you have to use read. This read is called as input statement. How to use this? Again, read comes with console. Console comes with system. In order to use read, you have to use this complete reference. How to use this? System.console.read. But again, when it comes to input statement, again, this can be implemented into different ways. A read and read line. A read and a read line. We also have a read key, but that is different. It reads ASCII characters. But these are the two major implementations, read and read. If I use read, it reads a single character like this. A, B, these are called single characters, right? So whenever you need to read a single character, make use of console.read. If you want to read group of character, collection of character, for example, your name. For example, your name will have collection of characters. If you want to read collection of characters, then make use of a read line. So how to use read? System.console.read. How to use read line? System.console.read line. Okay, so whenever you need to read a single character, make use of read because it is a lightweight functionality compared to your read line. I can also read single characters using read line. You must have posted this question. Hey, when I can read single characters also through read line, then why do we need read? A read is a lightweight functionality compared to read line. It has less complexity compared to read line. So if you need to read a single character, still I can use read line. But what happens? It has a lot of complexity compared to read. Here I may need to execute 2 lines of code, but here you may need to execute 10 lines of code, right? You'll put some burden on the processor, right? That burden can be reduced here. That's why you have to choose the respective implementation based on your requirement. It has to be used efficiently. Are you getting me? Okay, as a developer, you have to decide based on your requirement whether you are going to use read or read line. If you need to read a single character, make use of this. If you need to read group of characters, then make use of read line. Any questions, guys?
No, sir.
Okay. So now you are aware of input and output statements. Okay. And you should also be aware of the most important thing and one more thing that is going to be data. Right? Because as I said, in scripting language, we have seen a lot of disadvantages. Why? If you take JavaScript, it doesn't contain any data type, right? In all the cases, it is going to allocate some common amount of memory. So we have seen a lot of memory wastage. If you are wasting the memory, what has to be done if the memory has become full? Then your client has to purchase some other space. It would impact your revenue. And if your main memory becomes full, what happens? It will slow down your process also, application process. So if you do not manage the memory properly, that would impact too many things, your revenue, your application process, and other things, right? So the memory has to be managed more efficiently based on your requirement. You should not misuse that memory. Okay. So here, as I said, sorry, here it is. Looks like it is gone. Okay. Now, so as I said, the memory has to be managed more efficiently based on your requirement. Okay, you should not waste the memory for unnecessary things. Okay. So as I said, your scripting language doesn't contain data types. That's why you cannot tell the system how much amount of space has to be allocated. Because by default, in all the cases, some common amount of memory will be allocated. But here, Microsoft has overcome that problem. When it comes to programming language, yes, programming language contains proper data types. Based on your requirement, you can allocate only that much amount of memory. You can allocate only that much amount of memory. Okay. For example, when it comes to data, you will find different types of data. What is that? Let's say I have number 2.5. Next, A single character. Next, some Ramu, Prakash, collection of characters. And your song, music, picture, video, right? Some Boolean values, true or false. Read me. So when it comes to data, you will find different types of data, right? When it comes to 2, here you can see the difference, 2 and 2.5. What is the difference between these two? A 2 doesn't contain decimal value, but 2.5 contains decimal value. So 2.5 might require more space, little more space than 2. And A is a single character. It may not require this much amount of space. When it comes to Prakash, it might require more space than single character. Read me. So based on your requirement, you have to decide how much amount of memory has to be allocated. You have to take the control over and tell the system, hey, allocate only these bytes, allocate only these many bytes. That has to be done by the developer. You have to take the control over your application and manage the things properly. That is the main quality of the developer. While defining any data member, you should also think about these things: the space, complexity, security, and speed. Okay, so we have different types of data. So based on this, what C# has done, they have categorized data into 2 different data types, majorly. One is going to be numeric data, another one going to be non-numeric data. Numeric data, non-numeric data. Numeric, numerals means what? Numbers. Non-numeric means, non-numerals means other than numbers. Other than numbers means characters, strings, special characters, your song, music, picture, video. All those things comes under non-numeric data. Only numbers comes under numeric data. But when it comes to numbers, again, a 2 is a number, 2.5 is also a number. But what is the difference between these two? 2 doesn't contain decimal value, but 2.5 contains decimal value. A number without decimal value, a number with decimal value. Right? Again, whatever is having decimal value might require little more space than non-decimal value, right? That's why, again, they have categorized numbers into 2 categories. One is going to be a number without decimal, which is called integer. Second category is going to be a number with decimal, is called decimal. Integer and decimal. Okay. Any questions, guys, so far?
No.
Okay, this will be there in
No.
every programming language. The concept will remain same. Okay, at the top level, you will find 2 categories: numbers, non-numbers, numeric, non-numeric. When it comes to number, we have different types of numbers. Again, without decimal value, with a decimal value. A number which doesn't contain a decimal value is called integer. A number which contains decimal value is called decimal. Again, when it comes to integers, right? In C, whenever you want to store an integer number, okay, for example, let's say here I have 2,000 and 2 lakhs or 2 crores. Is there any difference between 20,000 and 2 lakhs? Yes. 2 is very smaller number. 20,000 is little bigger than 2, but 20 lakhs is more bigger than 2. When it comes to C, whether you want to store 2,000 or 20 lakhs, in all the cases, it has to be defined as int only. It has to be defined as int only. What happens if I say int? It allocates 2 bytes of space. Even it allocates 2 bytes of space, right? But if you look into this, here it is 2 is very smaller. It may not require 2 bytes. It might require only 1 byte or half byte. Your 20,000 might require 2 bytes. It might require 4 bytes. But in all the cases, same amount of memory will be allocated because there are no different other options are available within integer. That's why what C# has done, again, they have classified this into 3 different categories. Whenever you want to store smaller integers, go with int 16. The range is going to be from -2 power 16 to +2 power 16. Whenever you want to store some middle level integers, use int 32. Whenever you want to store bigger numbers, use int 64. Are you doing? Here it allocates only 2 bytes, here 4 bytes, here 8 bytes. Based on your requirement, you can manage your data more efficiently, because again, within integer, we have a lot of options to manage your data. You can choose based on your requirement. Okay. And how to use this? How do I define these data types? How do I define these data types? Again, same thing. Okay. We have a DLL called system DLL. When it comes to your data types, as I said, whenever I want to define an integer, I can define it in 3 different ways based on my requirement. Int 16, int 32, int 64. In C#, each data type is considered as a class. So later we will see more about the class. Okay. Now you know what is a class. It's like a container which will have collection of data members and function subprograms. Here, each data type is considered as a class. If I want to define any data member as int, how do I do that? So as I said, when you talk about int 16 is a class which comes with a namespace called system namespace. We have a DLL. We have a DLL called system DLL. System.dll comes with set of namespaces. One of them is system namespace. As I said, this namespace comes with set of classes. One of them is console. We have already seen what is the use of console. Whenever you want to use input and output statement, you have to use console. Apart from console, as I said, it comes with set of classes. Apart from console, it also comes with some other classes called int 16, int 32, int 64. Okay. Single, double, decimal, character, string, Boolean, array. So it comes with set of other classes. As I said, each data type is considered as a class. Those classes are available under same namespace. Apart from your console, you will also see other classes like int 16, int 32, int 64. So if I want to define my data type as int 16, how do I define this? Simple. If I write int 16 directly, it will not be accepted. In order to use that, what has to be done? The complete reference has to be provided. How to write this? Int 16 is a class which comes with system. How to write this? System dot int 16, system dot int 32, system dot int 64. How to use this? System dot int 16, system dot int 32. Right? So how do I define this? Something like this. If you want to define a variable, how do I define this? System dot int 16 a, system dot int 32 some b. In C, we used to define like int a into b. Here you can define something like system dot int 16 a, system dot int 32 b, array to b. So whenever you want to define any data member, you have to use this complete reference. Okay. Next system.int64. So this is something about your integer. And a number without decimal, with the decimal value is called as decimal. Again, this can be managed in 3 different ways. Because again, there can be 2.5 or 2134.56789. There can be smaller decimal values, mid-level decimal values, and bigger decimal values, and special decimal values. All right, me. So to manage them, again, they categorize decimal into 3 categories: single, float, double, decimal. In case of single or float, it allocates 4 bytes. In case of double, it is going to be 8 bytes. In case of decimal, it will allocate 16 bytes of space. So this is something about your numeric data. Again, how to use this? Same thing. Single is a class which comes with system namespace. Double is a class which comes with system namespace. Decimal is a class which comes with system namespace. If I want to use them, how do I use them? Simple. Here, system dot single, system dot double, system dot decimal. Okay. Any questions, guys?
No, sir.
No.
And next one is going to be non-numeric data and except numbers. Everything. Your character, string, music, audio, video, picture, Boolean values, datetime, everything comes under non-numeric data. So, yeah, the major things are going to be like character, string, Boolean, datetime. These are some main categories. When it comes to audio and video or images, how do we store them? In sometimes we keep the raw files as is in the servers and store the references. In some cases, we do convert the complete image into a text, and the text will be stored in the form of a string. That is what we do in the real time. Okay. But anything can be done. Anything can be stored as a string. Whether it is audio, video, anything can be converted into string. Anything can be stored in the form of a string. So whenever you want to store a single character like this, define it as a just to manage your memory more efficiently to save some space. Still, I can define it as a string, but what happens? Memory will be wasted, right? Define it as a character. When you want to store group of characters, define it as a string. And when it comes to Boolean, what is the use of a Boolean? You might have worked on gates while doing your engineering, right? Gates will be working based on only ones and zeros. Right? The outcome of every gate is going to be a Boolean value, 1 or 0. Whenever you want to capture a Boolean value, 1, 0 or true, false, you have to use a special data type called Boolean. Next, when it comes to date time, we have different time zones like CST, EST, IST, right? And your daylight saving, UTC, right? So to accommodate special zones, Microsoft has designed a special data type called datetime. Using datetime, you'll be able to accommodate all time zones. You'll be able to store all time zones, right? So how do I define them? Again, each data type is considered as a class which comes with system namespace. Here, apart from this, you will see character, string, Boolean, datetime. How do I use this? Simple. So when you talk about a character, it is a class which comes with system namespace. It is going to be system.char, system.string, system.bool, and system.datetime. Okay. So this is something about your data types. So if you are going to define any variable, first you need to ask the client, because based on the requirement only, you are able to decide how much space has to be allocated. Okay. So for example, client wanted to store SSN, social security number. Yes, you would identify, if it is SSN, what is the maximum length of SSN? How much space is required? Whether that should be considered as integer. If it is integer, into 16, into 32, or into 64. Or if that has to be stored as a string, is it going to be character or string? Is it going to be character or string? Or written? So based on your requirement, so you have to decide how much space has to be allocated in the system. That is very much required. So you cannot just blindly go and, like define the variables. Whenever you need to design something, you should ask them, you should question them. Hey, what kind of data that is going to come? Which is the employee number? Oh, when it comes to employee number, it contains numbers. So it has to be considered as an integer. If it is a name, yes, name will have collection of characters. So that should be taken as true. Alright, me. So to make the requirement more clear, more accurate, you have to gather this kind of information, because based on this only, you're going to design your data members, you're going to design your database everywhere in your application as well as in the database. So based on the requirement, so you have to decide how much space has to be allocated for every data member, every field. Your memory has to be managed more efficiently based on your requirement. So that's why we need data types in every programming language. Okay, any questions, guys, so far?
No, sir. Clear.
Okay, now you're aware of input and output statements, you're aware of data types, and you're aware of the concepts of library, class, and other stuff. Okay, and next concept is going to be IDE. Okay, now we know we can write our programs, we can develop our applications using C#. But where do I write my program? In Notepad or in my text file or somewhere? For example, if you take C, if you want to write your C program, you could also write in your Notepad. Then why are we using Turbo C and other editors? So whenever you want to develop something, you would be needing a development environment. That is called IDE, Integrated Development Environment. It provides environment for your application development. It provides environment for your application development. You would be needing an environment to write your programs, to code your application. That is called IDE. When it comes to C, there are a lot of IDEs are available. Turbo C is one of them. That was one of the popular one. That's why we used to write all our C, C+ programs under Turbo C. What is Turbo C? It is an IDE. Like this. When it comes to Java, you'll be using Eclipse and some other IDEs. Right? So what is an IDE? Integrated Development Environment. It provides environment for your application development. So when it comes to C#, where do I write my C# program? You can write it anywhere. But finally, it has to be saved using .cs extension. Okay, but when it comes to Visual Studio, when it comes to Microsoft, Microsoft is providing one of the high-end IDE, which is called Visual Studio. Visual Studio. This is one of the high-end IDE. It will reduce a lot of burden on the developer. Which provides a lot of flexibility, is more user-friendly IDE. Okay, your .NET is different from Visual Studio. Your .NET is a framework which provides set of services, which provides support of set of languages, set of utilities. But how do I develop these services? How do I use these services? In order to develop this, in order to write my application, to develop my application, I would be needing an IDE which is called Visual Studio. Right? Now your .NET has been integrated with an IDE called Visual Studio. That's why we are calling it as Visual Studio .NET. We also have other IDEs providing environment for .NET application development. Like some of the IDEs are being provided by Mono organization. You could also develop your .NET applications under Unix and Linux. Their Mono is providing some environments like your Visual Studio. Right? So .NET is completely independent entity. It is different from your IDE. .NET can be developed independently anywhere in any IDE. So Visual Studio is most popular IDE, which is more user-friendly, which provides many advanced options to the developer. That's why it has become very popular. Okay. That's why we are calling it as Visual Studio .NET, or .NET has been integrated with Visual Studio. Visual Studio is providing environment for your .NET application development. And apart from that, so as I said, it is an open source. Now Microsoft has made your C# as open source with the help of VS Code. You don't have to purchase any license for VS Code. In order to work with C#, just go ahead and get downloaded. Just go and get VS Code downloaded into your machine. Through this, you'll be able to develop different types of C# based applications. And not only C#, and whatever the language that are supported through your .NET, you could develop all those using VS Code. It is completely free. Any questions, guys?
No, sir.
Okay. Okay. So I think we are done. So the last concept is going to be structure of console application. Okay. Now we are aware of the library concept and we are aware of class. We are aware of other stuff. Now you know how to read data from the user, how to send response back to the user, and how to manage your memory more efficiently. What are the different data types are available in your C#, how to read it and how to write it, and which ID has to be used to code your applications. Okay. Now, as we discussed yesterday, as I said, using C#, we can develop different types of applications, like console-based applications, Windows, web, mobile, and other distributed applications, right? So once you become expert in C#, then we can start developing all those applications. In order to learn all C# concepts, we are going to develop the first and most powerful application called as console application. Console application. Console is more powerful. If you are really good in console, you could also develop your own IDE like Visual Studio. That is the power of console. You could also develop your own programming language like C# and Java, right? So we are going to use our first application type called console to learn all concepts of C#. Okay. When you look into console application, again, whatever we are discussing in the beginning, again, those concepts are going to be appeared here. As I said, if you look into the structure of the console application, so this is a structure of console application. If you look into this, here you will see namespace, class, and main method. This is a hierarchy of your library, right? Why do we need a library? Why do we need a namespace? Why do we need a class? As I said, whenever you want to group set of subprograms, set of data members and member functions into a single unit, single container, then we require a class, a structure. When you want to group set of classes, set of structures into another container, then we require a namespace. When you want to group set of namespaces, then we require a concept called library. When you talk about a library can be defined as collection of namespaces. A library will have collection of namespaces. When you talk about a namespace, guys, you have to answer. What is a namespace?
A collection of classes.
Very good. And what is a class?
Collection of
Will have collection
subprograms.
of
Data.
data members and member functions. See,
Data members.
why the Microsoft has defined a standard structure for console class? There should be some strong reason. See, irrespective of the technologies, that is C or C++, Java, you can take any system. Every application, every project requires its own starting point, which will be used by your compiler. In this editor, you can write thousands of lines of code, thousands of instructions. When it comes to compiler, it doesn't know where to start the execution. It doesn't know where to start the execution. In C program, we used to write main, void main. In CPP also, in Java also. What is main? If I remove that main from your programming environment, what happens? What will be the impact on your program? See, as I said, irrespective of the things, whether it is a GUI-based application, console application, or anything, every application requires its own starting point, which will be used by your compiler. You can write thousands of instructions on the same editor. It doesn't know anything about that. Whenever you compile your application, it will directly go to that starting point and start execution from there. If that is remote, what happens? It doesn't know where to start the execution. It will get confused. Are you to me? That's why every application requires a starting point. In C, we call it as main. In CPP, we call it as main. In Java also, we call it as main. In C# also, that starting point is going to be main for your console application. Are you to me? So that's why here Microsoft has defined a standard structure. C# has defined a standard structure. What is that? As I said, Every console application also requires its own starting point. It will be used by your compiler. Whenever you compile your application, your compiler will directly go to the starting point and start the execution from there. Right? So that starting point is going to be your main program in console application. Right? So when you talk about a main program, it is a subprogram. It is a function. Right? So in order to accommodate a subprogram, so what is the concept of a class? Whenever you want to group set of subprograms, set of data members into a container, then we require a class. What is a class? Class will have collection of subprograms, collection of data members. And what is a namespace? A namespace will have collection of classes. Just to set that hierarchy, what C# has done, whenever you choose any console application, by default, every console application will be provided with this structure. By default, every console application will be provided with its starting point. What is that starting point? Main program. In order to accommodate your subprogram, where should I keep my subprogram? That has to be placed into a container called class. And where should I keep my class? That has to be placed into another container called a namespace. To accommodate, just to accommodate your starting point, they have provided a default class called program. Because it is a subprogram, it should always be there inside a class. Just to accommodate this, your starting point of your application, they provided a default class called program. Just to accommodate your default class, they provided a default container called namespace. That's why by default, every console application comes with a default namespace called, and this namespace will be named using your application name. You can provide any name. We'll show you one of the examples. So this is my Visual Studio ID, right? Tomorrow we'll show you, okay, how to start with and what are the features that are there in your Visual Studio. Okay, so by default, every application will be provided with this structure. Okay, every console application comes with a default namespace, and the name of this namespace is going to be your project name. It is a user-defined one. You can provide any name based on your requirement. You can give any name. So by default, your project name will be considered as namespace name. If you want, you can override it. You can also give another name. And this namespace, when you talk about namespace, you can place n number of classes inside a namespace, n number of structures, because a namespace will act as a container for collection of classes, collection of structures, and a collection of interfaces. So inside this space, inside this container, I can keep n number of classes, n number of structures. By default, this namespace will be provided with a default class called program. A default class called program, right? And apart from this, I can keep n number of classes. And when you talk about this default class, inside this class, basically when you talk about a nature of class, a class will act as a container for collection of data members and member functions, collection of variables and subprograms. So inside this class, I can define n number of variables, n number of data members. I can keep n number of subprograms, n number of member functions. A subprogram is also called as member function. By default, it comes with a default subprogram, which is called starting point of your application. That is called main program. If this is removed for your project, if I compile my application, what happens? Compiler doesn't know where to start the execution. If you want, you can remove it, but it doesn't know where to start the execution. You have to provide the instructions explicitly to the compiler if this is removed. Are you doing it? That's why every console application requires a starting point, which is called main program. When you compile your application, compiler will directly go to this main, and whatever is mentioned here, it will take care of executing only those instructions. So this is the concept of your console. From tomorrow onwards, we will start implementing different concepts using console application, so that I will get to know more about these things. This is just high level overview of your structure of console application. That's all. Any questions, guys?
No, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is something about introduction to your .NET Framework, IDE, and console application. So from tomorrow onwards, we will start implementing, okay, so different statements of your C#.
Okay, sir.
If you have any questions, let me know. Okay, so I'll be sharing this recording. Okay, from tomorrow onwards, once we start writing the program, once we start implementing the concept, okay, I'll be teaching some real-time examples in the classroom, as well as I'll let you practice some real-time examples. Okay,
Okay.
from tomorrow onwards, we will start doing that. Today we just discuss, only theoretical concepts. From tomorrow onwards, we will start implementing some programs.
Okay. Should we download any development environment like Visual Studio or something?
Yeah. So just go ahead and download Community Edition. It is completely free and comes with all features. That is
Visual
designed
Studio
exclusively for students.
Community Edition.
Community Edition, Visual Studio 2020 Community Edition. 2019 is
20.
also fine. And if you get
Okay.
2022, you'll be more happy. That is the latest version of Visual Studio.
Okay.
Ravinder sir, could you please share that also in WhatsApp group? So that
Okay, I'll keep that. I'll send that in WhatsApp.
thank you,
Okay.
sir.
Okay. Okay, guys. So thank you. So have a good evening and good night too. So we will meet tomorrow at same time. And
Thank you.
before coming to my
Uh,
class, please do, like refer all these concepts. Just go through this, okay? And understand the concept, because whatever we have discussed today, those are the core concepts that are going to play one of the important key role in your C# language. Okay. So please do go through those concepts and make yourself comfortable with those concepts.
Okay.
Okay.
Basics
So
are very, very
also-
important to play with your C# concepts. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. Also tomorrow I cannot join the session. I have work outside, but I have already set up the Visual Studio and run some sample programs. I
Okay.
will go through the recording tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow's recording. And I will ask any questions if I have in WhatsApp or in the next meeting session.
Okay. But
Yeah.
please do not miss my classes. Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
This time it's
sure.
fine because I'll be teaching, like more number of real-time examples in the classroom. Right? You'll get a chance to interact
Okay.
with me, right? In reading, like if you go
Yeah.
through the recordings, right? If you get some doubt and if something is not fully clear, you'll get stuck over there. You have to wait for me, for next class. Right? So if you
Yeah.
join the
Yeah,
session, you'll get a
understood.
chance to interact with me. You'll get a chance to discuss with me. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Lakshman, do you want to say something?
No. I only whatever the link that you wanted to, the kids to, the students to download, just
Yeah.
share it in WhatsApp, and
Hmm.
any assignment is there, just
Yeah, we
post
will
it in
keep
the-
posting the things like, the assignments and everything in the group only.
Yeah,
We'll use it as a primary communication mode. Yeah.
yeah. Please, try to attend the classes. Don't skip the classes because this is an intensive course, quite intensity
Yeah.
course. Like, if you miss, you'll miss that, connections.
Yeah.
Okay.
Tomorrow will be like my last day at work. So I won't be missing any future classes.
Okay, then. So if there is any possibility, I'll ask him to, switch the classes for some time later.
Okay.
But we'll see, like,
Okay, no
see.
issues. Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, then.
Okay.
Bye.
Yeah, thank you, Lakshman Garu. So thank you guys. Have a wonderful evening.
Yeah,
Have a good day,
thanks,
sir.
Ravinder.
Bye.